Hello and welcome. Let's round up some things for the month of October before the time slips away through my fingers again and I don't know where it went and it's already the end of November. I'm really trying to be on schedule here and do these on a monthly basis. Let's start off with the non-makeup category as usual. I have only one item that I want to talk about and I believe it is a repetition from last month, and that is going to be a brush from Sonia G. I did talk about this brush also in my monthly roundup and empties, I think for September, but at the time it was completely brand new, and although I was enjoying it, I was not aware of how deeply I would fall in love with it. So this is part of her Fundamentals face set that was released a couple of months ago with the beautiful walnut handles. This brush in particular is new to her lineup. So some of the brushes that are present in the Fundamentals face set were previous releases, but this one is a completely new shape. This is the Worker L. And what I love to use this brush for is for the application of highlighter, because as you can appreciate from the shape of this brush, it is quite a multitasker. I've seen a lot of people use this to set their under eyes. I don't really set under my eyes, so it's wasted on me in that aspect. I've seen Alicia Archer do the very outrageous brave thing and use this as an eyeshadow brush. Technically speaking, I have plenty of real estate and I could possibly try to use it for that purpose, but it's just not a brush that I would ever consider using on my eyes, although it does have the shape of a blender brush. And that is exactly why I like the brush so much for the application of highlighter, because it is strategic, but at the same time the shape really helps you to apply the highlighter and then buff it into your skin so that it looks very seamless. So it has a little bit of a taper, as you can see, but it is also a bit domed here and very soft, so you can pick up the product like this on the sides and then sort of apply it like this, and then what I do is I flip the brush on its head and then I buff it into the skin using the top soft dense part of the brush. And I just really love how this works a highlighter into the skin. Again, another winner from Sonia G, another multitasker. I just really love the way she thinks about brushes. I can't wait to see what she has done for her Fundamentals eye set, which will be coming very soon, and I also am very excited to see what she's giving us for the holiday release. Now, no better transition from the favorite highlighter brush to the actual highlighters that I've purchased in the last month. I've gone a bit insane buying new highlighters. I'm not really sure why I felt the need. Brands just gave me the opportunity to buy some gorgeous highlighters and I couldn't pass up on it. Now, the first highlighter I want to talk about is not a new release. It is not something that just came out on the market. These have been a while for a really long time. This is the Dior Couture Luminizer and the shade that I have is Nude Glow. Look how beautiful that is. For whatever reason, I can just stare and stare at the surface of this highlighter because it looks like a reflection of the moon. It is just so beautiful, visually speaking to me. I do have a Dior bronzer that comes in very similar packaging, the difference being that both of them have this faux leather type packaging, but this one is shiny. These highlighters are available in store, so I have swatched them on a number of occasions and I've always really felt quite attracted to the finish because the formula of this, as you can see, it is this beautiful baked gelée, and because it is a baked gelée, it is just so beautiful on the skin, and I thought this specific color would be a really nice addition to my collection in this specific texture. So Nude Glow is what I would describe as a neutral with slightly golden warm champagne tones. So there's a little bit of warmth to this highlighter, although I would not describe this as a warm tone highlighter. It is definitely a little bit golden in tone, but at the same time I wouldn't describe it as too warm or too cool. It just sits in the perfect middle, and I really enjoy it for that specific reason, because I don't think that I really had a shade quite like this in my collection. And like I said, I really love the finish. Look how beautiful. And this specific shade is very suited for my skin tone because it actually melts with my skin and it really lifts my cheekbones. A lot of the times I'm attracted to highlighters which are slightly too deep for my skin tone that I can sort of pull off, but speaking in terms of what's optimal for my skin, a shade like this really works very well for my skin. Then the other two highlighters that I picked up are both from Chanel. One of them is brand new, one of them is not at all new. I almost feel bad talking about it because it is a limited edition release from 2021 that was, I think, already difficult to get a hold of, but now it is almost impossible to get a hold of, and I bought it by just pure sheer dumb luck I saw it on Vinted, it was brand new, I didn't even think twice, I was just like, okay, I'm going to get it now and think later. And I had already heard a lot about this highlighter, primarily from Charlotte Holdcroft, who always puts it in her top of the top products, some of the products that she would like to bring back because they've been discontinued. This highlighter always makes it into her top list, and as you know, I've been extremely influenced by Charlotte in the past couple of months, and I've really been disappointed by a product that she has recommended. And this highlighter is no exception. This is the Reve de Camelia limited edition highlighter from 2021, I want to say. It comes with the gorgeous Camelia embossing, which is one of the reasons that I was really interested in this highlighter, because I really wanted to have something with the Camelia embossing on it. One of the symbols of Chanel is the Camelia flower. They put it on a lot of their products. A lot of their stuff is centered around the Camelia. And this is one of the latest releases to have the Camelia embossing on it. We will talk about the Camelia embossing again in a couple of minutes. But let's first finish talking about the Reve de Camelia. So Reve de Camelia, contrary to what I was expecting, I think I was expecting that Reve de Camelia would be similar in tone to Nude Honey, but in fact Reve de Camelia leans a little bit more cool toned on my skin. Do you see that there's a little bit more iciness compared to Nude Glow? Nude Glow really has those like slightly warmer golden tones, and because I have more warm tones to my skin, this just melts with my skin tone, whereas this one is something that I would consider a bit more suited when I'm doing cooler toned looks, because on my skin there's a very strongly detectable pink hue, like a cooler undertone to this highlighter. And what is also maybe interesting to mention in terms of difference in the texture of these two highlighters is that the Couture Luminizer from Dior to me is a classic baked gelée. It really has that like very easily discernible baked gelée formula to it, whereas this one I feel like is more of a classic baked formula. It's not a bad thing, I'm just saying that they're slightly different textures. It's just that there is a touch more powderiness to the formula, if that really makes sense. Whereas with the Dior Couture Luminizer, when you put your finger in here, you really feel that more like gel-like structure, gel-like texture. So that is something that I found quite interesting between the two formulas. And the final highlighter that I have picked up very recently, something that I have been lusting after ever since they announced it earlier this year, and those were the Chanel oversized highlighters. Those made an appearance first around Asia and Australia already in the summer, and then there were rumors being spread around that they're actually not going to make it at all to Europe and the US. Turns out to be fake news, so I will never believe a rumor like this ever again, also because it is just so nonsensical. Why would Chanel not want to make more money globally? So, the Chanel oversized highlighters basically come in the same sort of packaging. Chanel is pretty classic when it comes to their packaging. They don't really switch it up much. You may call it borderline boring and a little bit more plain compared to, for example, what Dior is doing with their packaging. I think Dior are a little bit maybe more versatile with their packaging, whereas Chanel really want to be recognizable. Like when you see the box, you know that it's Chanel. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, you know, as a luxury brand they have made the conscious choice to have a specific type of aesthetic when it comes to their packaging, something that is easily recognizable, very like clean in terms of the design, with the recognizable Chanel logo here. So by me, I don't really mind it as much. And now the contents of the highlighter that I purchased. So these oversized Chanel highlighters were released in 3 shades. Pearly white, warm golden, and the shade that I purchased, which is oh my god, what is this called again? Peach something. Dummy. Precious Coral is the final shade in this collection. For a moment there, my mind went completely blank. And in addition to the 3 colors, they offered several different types of embossings. You could get the Camelia, there were some, I think, intertwined Chanel logo ones, there is the lion and the tweed and another one. There were quite a lot of like different options for the embossing to choose from, which also made it like quite dangerous for people that they would pick up several shades just so they can have a variety of the different embossings. And I will admit, I was one of those people. I was originally actually planning on getting all 3 with a different embossing on them, but then I came to my senses and I realized that that is completely preposterous, and I decided to choose just one shade in the Camelia embossing, because in the end of the day, the Camelia embossing really is my favorite, and it is really the most classic symbol of Chanel. Anyway, so I picked up the shade Precious Coral. I talked about that recently in a video where I demoed this shade and why I picked this shade up, because I originally thought this would be more of a golden champagne, so I didn't want to repeat myself too much. That's why I decided to forgo warm golden as an option. Pearly white was never really going to look all that great on me, because these sort of like whitish shades appear a bit too stark and icy on my skin being a little bit more warm toned. And then I saw Charlotte Holdcroft demo this shade, and it seemed like it was not too deep on her. She compared it to the Divine Rose highlighter from Pat McGrath Labs, which I have and I can pull off, and they didn't seem all that different from each other in terms of the depth of the tone. So I figured, you know what, it might be a shot of the dark, but this is a very unique shade, it is a very original shade, and I think I might enjoy the combination of everything together in this specific shade. So I decided to pick it up, and I'm actually really happy with my choice, because I really like the tone of this highlighter. I think it is again a very unique tone, because the orange base of this highlighter, there's a little bit of like a apricot base to the shade, and there is also a tiny bit of a cooler toned reflect. So to me that makes this shade a little bit more versatile and really not as offensively warm toned and as a lot of people would expect based on pictures of this. I think based on pictures of this highlighter, a lot of people thought this would be way too orange and way too warm, but at least the way this translates on my skin is a bit of an apricot with that cooler icy sheen on it. So I'm actually really happy with my purchase, because this is a very unique shade in my collection, and I just get such a jolt of joy every time I open the little box, well, the little box that's almost the size of my head, with the beautiful Camelia embossing on it. Also, if it seems like there are a lot of cuts in this video and my voice sounds a bit raspy, is because that beautiful cough that I inherited from Nicola is still, you know, keeping me awake at night and making my life so joyous. So I have to like interrupt the talking every now and then for a sip of water and also to cough it out a little bit. And that is why if this video seems a little bit more like cut in terms of the editing, that is the reason. That, and also because I need to like get my thoughts together, but mainly that is the reason. Okay, another product that I want to talk about and mention very briefly is favorite that is not new, but I wanted to emphasize once again why I love this product so much. So I want to talk about the NYX Glitter Glue, which I purchased a second tube of after I panned my previous one. I bought this with the intention of using it once I have finished the Pat McGrath Labs Intensifies stick. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself here, some of you will have already heard this, but some of you may not have heard it, so I want to like reiterate it just in case it wasn't clear before. So this is the Intensify stick from Pat McGrath. It is basically the glitter glue version that she offers in her lineup, so that you can apply that over top of your eyeshadow primer as a base for all of the glittery flaky shades in her collection. I use a glitter glue basically every day that I do my makeup. Basically everything that is glittery or sparkly or highly shiny metallic, I apply over a glitter glue, because I am searching for the highest impact from my eyeshadows. And when I purchased this, I used it, I tested it a few times, specifically with the motherships. It felt like it performs quite equally to the NYX Glitter Glue, or maybe at the time it was Pixie Epoxy that I tested it against, I can't remember. And then I sort of put it in a drawer and I continued using the NYX Glitter Glue, only occasionally using this, and more specifically for like lower lash line work, because I find the shape very convenient to shove it under your lash line, and then, you know, you apply a darker shade there, and it really helps the darker shade to not smudge on your eyes throughout the day. But then when I finished the NYX Glitter Glue, I thought, okay, I'm going to finish the Intensify stick before I open a new tube. And then all of a sudden, I started having issues with my eyeshadows creasing. And trust me when I say this, nowadays when I get issues with my eyeshadow creasing, I am shocked and appalled, because I haven't had issues like this in over a decade. Ever since I discovered eyeshadow primer and glitter glue, I've literally never had to worry about my eyeshadow creasing. So that starting to happen more consistently was something of a shock to me. And initially I thought that the issue was that I was testing the Urban Decay Primer Potion, which is an eyeshadow primer that I haven't really consistently used in my rotation for many years already. And then I figured it's the eyeshadow primer that really is the problem. So I went back to my Inglot eyeshadow keeper and I discovered that this guy is the problem. This guy here is the saboteur. This is what was making my eyeshadows crease. And more specifically, I have to say, it is a combination of specific type of eyeshadow formula and the stick that doesn't work. I noticed that specifically with the Quint formula from Pat McGrath Labs, this eyeshadow stick doesn't really work. It is too waxy, it is too emollient, in combination with the already highly emollient nature of the shadows in the Quints. Crease down on me. And that is not an issue that some of you have to worry about. I have to worry about it because I have super oily eyelids. If you don't have to worry about it. But that is the reason I've rediscovered and re-fallen in love with my NYX Glitter Glue, because I went back to using the glitter glue and all of my issues with creasing went away, even with the Quint formula. And in the grand scheme of things, honestly, the NYX Glitter Glue is far easier for me to get, far cheaper, it goes a much further way, so the only inconvenient thing is that it's in a squeeze tube. So the delivery method, I think, of the Pat McGrath Lab stick is what really is a real point in advantage of this product. I've always really enjoyed the delivery because it is just so easy, but this guy just performs better. On my eyelids, at least, it performs better. It's cheaper, it's easier to get, so, you know, win-win-win. Check, check, and check. There are 5 crap tons of eyeshadows that we need to tackle in a little bit, but before that, there are 2 lipsticks that I want to mention for this monthly roundup. First, let's talk about something that is completely new. This is the Dior Addict lipstick in the shade Tartan. I've never tried Dior lipsticks before. In fact, I don't... Oh no, I have a YSL lipstick. I think that is the only, truly, classic luxury brand that I have. I have Tom Ford, I have obviously a lot of this Eldridge and Pat McGrath Labs, I have NARS, but I don't have too much experience with the classic brands, and this is the first time that I'm trying a Dior lipstick. This is a totally Martina made me buy. She's been talking about this color consistently for the past month as being her favorite warm brown color for the fall months, and it is a really beautiful color. So this is what I would describe as Cinnabar from Lisa Eldridge, but make it the Divinyl formula from Pat McGrath Labs. So it is kind of a cross between the two. The shade of this is essentially Cinnabar from Lisa Eldridge, but obviously because it's a very creamy lipstick, it is much more sheer compared to a Cinnabar. Now, I love the packaging of this lipstick. I think it's really cute, it's really classic. Again, I find that Dior does a little bit better in terms of being a little bit more inventive with their packaging compared to Chanel. By comparison, the Chanel lipsticks that I have seen in terms of packaging look again a little bit more plain. So I really like that this is a bit more, jazzed up. I have feelings about the formula though. First of all, because this formula is very similar to the Divinyls, unfortunately, it bleeds a little bit on me. It is very creamy. It has a beautiful sheen, beautiful cream. It's very hydrating. It's one of those lipsticks that you will need to reapply multiple times during the day because it comes off, which is not a problem for me. I'm used to formulas like this. I don't mind reapplying my lipstick at all because I've mentioned it also previously. Why would one not want to whip out this beautiful packaging and reapply this lipstick? So I'm not married to long-lasting formulas. However, I do really struggle with very bleedy lip lines, even when I apply both a lip primer and a lip liner. I do wear this with the Cinnabar lip liner, and the first time I wore it, I kind of put it generously on my lips so that it's full opacity, very shiny, very creamy, and at the end of the day I noticed that there was a bit of feathering around my lip lines, which is not my favorite. There is a way to make this lipstick a bit less bleedy on my lips, which is by just blotting it down or using my fingers to apply it, because that removes a bit of the shine and the slip. But in terms of formula, this feels to me exactly like the Divinyls from Pat McGrath. The Divinyls from Pat McGrath are also this beautifully hydrating, shiny, creamy formula, but again, they do have a little bit the tendency to feather around my lip lines. The one thing that kind of bothers me about this lipstick though, it is scented, and it is a very pleasant, sweet scent. It does not, when I smell it, I don't smell a perfume. However, when I put it on my lips, I feel like I can taste perfume. It's very bizarre. I've never had this happen to me before. I've had, you know, lipsticks that have a scent to them. For example, MAC lipsticks have a very strong vanilla scent to them. I've never been able to taste them. I've never really had an issue with that. This is the first time that the scent translates into sort of like a perfumey taste for me. And I'm not sure whether this is something that's happening to other people. So if you have some of these lipsticks, I would be curious to hear about your experience with the scent and that translating into a taste. I don't think Martina has mentioned anything about the taste, so it might be that it's an issue for me only. It's definitely not a reason for me to stop using this lipstick. I will continue to use it and I will continue to enjoy it, but it is making me a little bit more cautious as to picking up more colors from this shade range, because first of all, the bleeding is a bit of an issue for me. I have cream lipsticks in my collection, more specifically the Luxuriously Lucents from Eldridge that I'm going to talk about in a second, that I far prefer because they never bleed on my lips. And the thing with the taste, I don't really think I'm going to be dipping my toes into any more of these lipsticks because of that. Okay, and now let's talk about my absolute favorite cream lipstick formula out there, which is the Luxuriously Lucent from Eldridge. If this is your first time on my channel, the reason I love these lipsticks so much is because they have that cream, hydrating, comfortable finish on them, but they never bleed on my lips, and they fade in the most graceful manner possible, because they, instead of just like straight up fading away from your lips, they leave a little bit of a stain. They're so easy to reapply, and the reason I'm mentioning them in this specific video is twofold. First, I want to mention this specific color. This is the shade Painterly, and it is the newest addition to my Luxuriously Lucent lipstick collection, which is why also the bullet looks a little bit less used compared to a lot of my other Lucents. But it is, I don't know why I haven't picked up this color before. It is just so perfect. It is yet again another one of those neutral lipsticks from Eldridge that I didn't know that I needed desperately. What is so incredibly beautiful about the shade Painterly is that on the lips it gives you a little bit of those delicious chocolate tones, but without being too brown. Like if you consider something like Meet Me in Berlin, which is a straight up 90s brown color, if that is not your vibe, but you want something that has those beautiful like chocolate notes to it, but also has a bit of pink, then Painterly really is the absolute most perfect color. It just has a little bit of depth without being too dark. It is a flattering color. It is also a color that basically goes with most eye looks that you can think of. I really can't think of an eye look that you cannot pair Painterly with. So the specific shade of Painterly has turned quickly into one of my favorites, to no one's surprise. But what I have discovered recently that I really enjoy doing with these lipsticks from Eldridge is I like layering them over top of her velvets. I don't know why this never occurred to me before, and I'm sure that some of you are like, dude, I've been doing that for like the past 3 years. How did it not occur to you to do this previously? Because usually when I pair a matte formula with something more creamy, I usually choose for a combination of a gloss together with the matte. And I've mentioned this before, but the velvets from Eldridge for me do not work with a gloss over top. I've tried using her own glosses, like the Gloss Embrace over top of her lipsticks, and on my lips what happens is that the gloss sort of eats up the velvet, and I end up with this really weird like hole in my lipsticks, in like the middle portion of my lips. It just looks super weird. I don't like it. I really don't wear the velvets together with the Gloss Embrace formula. I wear them separately, which is a bit of a shame because sometimes I want to wear one of the velvets, but you know, I'm going through some sort of a dry lips phase, or my mouth is dry for some reason. Like for example, this past week with all the coughing that I've had to do, I really didn't want to wear a very mattifying formula, but at the same time I had specific colors in mind that I wanted to wear. So then I thought, wait, why not apply a little bit of the Lucent over top of the velvet to creamify the formula, so to speak? And it worked magically. It worked wonders. I like the combination of the Lucents with the velvets so much more compared to the velvets with the Gloss Embrace formula. So the other day I was wearing, I think in a video, Muse together with Painterly. Loved the combination, and today I'm wearing Affair together with Kitten Mischief. So the Kitten Mischief is the Lucent and Affair is the velvet. Truly stunning, and it does exactly what I wanted to do, which is sort of preserve the color of the velvet, but then add a little bit of that hydration over top. Oh, an absolute perfect combination. Why did I not know of this before? So because of that, it should come as no surprise to you that in a couple of weeks from now you're going to see a few new lotions appearing into my collection. Yes, I went ahead and placed another order at Lisa Eldridge. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, she released this like loyalty program, the Lisa and Me, and obviously I immediately qualified for the highest tier. And I was under the impression that I can use a 10% off code, but then I went to place my order and I found out that the code only works on, I want to say, new releases, or at least that's the impression that I got from the description. Can anyone please confirm, because I thought the code would expire within a certain amount of time, but she's not releasing anything new, so I want to place an order now, but I can't use the code. I'm really confused. If someone can please explain this to me, I would be very grateful, thank you. Also, because your previous purchases don't really count for reward, for like current rewards, like your current rewards, like any sort of discount you can get, only starts counting as of now. So you have to make purchases now for you to be able to get, like, I don't know, 5 euros or 5% of your order, which is, you know, a minimal sort of discount, but we need to consider the size of her brand. She's a very small brand. I'm sure she can't afford to do Black Friday sales with 40% off. But I was just really confused as to, you know, I'm in the highest tier, but right now there's really no benefit for me aside from being informed when a lipstick shade is going to be discontinued or something. I was like, what? Maybe we're still about to see what exactly this whole program is going to deliver and how it's going to work. But so far, in terms of like a financial reward of like getting some sort of a discount on my purchase, I haven't found one. My lord, we haven't even started on the eyeshadow, it's already 40 minutes. Okay, I'm going to chop and go a little bit faster through the eyeshadows. The first two items that I'm going to mention I'm going to mention very briefly because they are super new and I don't really have fully formed thoughts on them. So these are the Bobbi Brown, I want to say holiday collection, but maybe it's not like the Christmas collection, but some sort of a previous holiday collection from this year. I'm not really sure. But these are the Moonstone Glow Cheek and Eye Palette, which looks like this, and the single luxe eyeshadow in the shade Cosmic, which is this gorgeous mint green color. Now, both of these were an extremely generous gift from one of my subscribers who ordered these for themselves, and then for whatever reason Bobbi Brown decided to send them an extra of each of these items, and then this lovely lady offered to send the extra items to me, which is like super fucking generous because she shipped them to me all the way from Canada. But I've done a video, so I would say just if you want to hear and especially see these in action, just go and watch the video. But essentially what you're getting here, in case you're not familiar with this formula, is the Pat McGrath Astral and VR shades. This is what I would describe them as. So this eyeshadow here, the mint green, the shade Cosmic, is basically the same as a VR eyeshadow from Pat McGrath Labs. So it is baked, it has a beautiful, very like smooth texture to it. This shade in particular is a beautiful light mint green, very reflective, and the eyeshadows that are present in this particular palette have two different finishes. These two are mattes and these four over here are what I would describe as her Astral formula. This shade here being an almost exact dupe for Astral Solstice from Pat McGrath Labs. So they're very pretty. They're a great alternative if you can't get your kick from Pat McGrath Labs anymore in terms of the baked formulas, because Pat hasn't really done this formula already for 2 years, whereas it seems like Bobbi Brown is still doing this formula, which is really cool. The only thing you need to consider, of course, is that she's offering them in a certain shade range. Is that shade range something that you are interested in? I personally think this palette has some pros and some cons to it. I think it's really nice that you're getting such a variety of different colors in this specific formula for a relatively reasonable price. I do think nobody needs such a huge highlighter because this middle shade here is essentially a highlighter. It is a beautiful, you know, baked formula, but who the fuck needs such a huge highlighter? I would have rather had a combination of a highlighter and a bronzer, or a highlighter and a blush. The two matte eyeshadows here are way too light, way too similar. They're never going to appear on anyone deeper than my skin tone. and these two are too similar to each other to be distinguished on the eye. So as pretty as this palette is in terms of the texture of the eyeshadows, it definitely has its flaws. The only flaw that the green eyeshadow has is that it is ridiculously expensive. That is really the hugest con that I can think of, especially if you're situated in Europe. These singles are going to set you back 50 euros a piece, and this specific shade I don't even think you can easily find if you're in Europe. And finally, let's talk about the items that I picked up from the Pat McGrath Labs Bijou Brilliance collection. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I've done an extensive swatch party and week featuring all of these items, which I'm going to leave linked up in the cards here for you if you would like to check it out. I have a whole playlist where I've dealt with this collection. I'm just going to go quickly through it because also I'm still sort of like getting to know this collection. It hasn't really been in my rotation for that long, but I have some brief thoughts on each of the items, so I'm going to share them with you. So from the two Mega Mothership palettes this year, I picked up the shade Starstruck Splendour because it seemed like the more unique offering in the collection, and I'll be honest with you, I really love this palette. I like the two blushes, they're both completely new to my collection. I did not have Nymphet, and the shade Cosmic something Coral Cosmos is a new shade of the Divine blushes. I like the colors that are present in this palette. I think they work well together. I think it's a very nice combination of warmer tones and cool tones. The mattes are a very nice formula. They're a little bit different to what you will find in her motherships as of late and in her quads. These are a little bit drier in texture compared to what I'm used to in the past couple of years, but that's not to say that they're not good quality. They blend out, they're fine, you know, I have no complaints about their performance. It's just that they're a little bit different to her other palettes, and they're nice shadows. They're a good variety of different tones. You get this more like neutrally pinky terracotta shade, this really cool toned mauve purple, and these two warmer type shades. This is more of a brown, this is more of mahogany in tone. I will mention though that this palette lacks a little bit of depth when it comes to the matte shades, because these two are basically the same like depth of tone, and they're also quite similar, so I would have rather had a deeper brown in place of this mahogany shade here. I like these two because they really offer more versatility to the palette if you want to take it in a cooler direction, or if you want to take it in a warmer direction. This is a really nice transition shade for someone with my skin tone. So that is, you know, a little bit of a critique that I have for the mattes in this palette. When it comes to the metallics, I think they're beautiful. I really like these two neutral shades. The shade Opalescent Moonstone is definitely an absolute standout in this eyeshadow palette, because it is this beautiful, ethereal, pinky, like salmon pink with a blue-green duochrome to it. It is just one of my favorites, I think, in this palette. It is also worth noting that the two greens are really beautiful, really unique greens. This one is a very cool toned green, almost like a gray toned green, and this beautiful like forest green with more like olive tones to it has an exceptionally beautiful texture to it. It is not one of her VR Blitz shades, but it honestly feels like one to me, which is really remarkable because I've never really encountered a texture like this in her Mega Motherships before. So this is the deep forest green, this is the cooler toned silvery green. I think they're both really pretty, and honestly I'm just really enjoying this palette. I hate the octagonal shape of this palette, and I'm not super fond of the artwork on the packaging, but what's inside is of really high quality and I really enjoy it. And I also purchased all of the quints that were offered in this collection. I bought them in a bundle because I am extremely fond of the formula that is present in the quints. Again, I've done looks with each individual quint on my channel, so if you would like to see those, just refer to the playlist. Starting off with my absolute favorite, which is the shade Bronze Ecstasy. I love everything about this palette. I love the two matte shades, I like all the shimmer shades in here, I like the impact that they have, I like the variety of the textures, I like the specific tones that are present in here, because they're not too warm, they're not too cool, they're just such interesting tones of neutral eyeshadows, and I love it when Pat McGrath gives me interesting neutrals. Speaking of interesting neutrals, my second favorite in this collection thus far has to be the Sunset Romance quint. I just absolutely love this deliciously terracotta color story. Again, there isn't a single eyeshadow in here that I don't like, and I really like the look that you can achieve if you use all the eyeshadows together. I haven't really played around yet to create looks where I use only a few of the shades and not all of the shades, because basically every time that I open this I want to put all of the eyeshadows on my lids. And I think, again, it is a beautiful gem of a neutral palette, but it leans a little bit more on the warmer and terracotta side, so it really will be up to personal preference how you feel about the tones in here. But when it comes to the quality, the variety of the textures, and the tones of the eyeshadows, I think they're beautiful and unique, and I absolutely love them. Next we have Lunar Nightshade, which is probably the most interesting quint in the offering, because it has this very interesting combination of like purple, cooler toned taupe pinks together with the two blue eyeshadows in here. What I really love about this quint is that it gives you quite a bit of versatility when it comes to the different like tones of the looks that you can achieve, because you can go blue, you can go purple, you can go quite neutral if you pair this taupe pink shades with something neutral in the crease. In fact, it's the eyeshadow that I used most recently for my pet pairing video, which again I can link up in the cards for you as well. It is a pairing between this palette and the big mothership in Starstruck Splendour, and I really loved the look. I also really loved the look that I created with this palette when I first demoed it. I wasn't sure that it's a look that will work because I wanted to use as many of the shades as possible, but in the end I really loved how it looked on me. I find those dark shades with the glitter in them that you will see in this one, as well as the last quint in the collection, which is the shade, what was it again, Bordeaux Bliss, to be one of the most interesting offerings in this whole quint collection, because they're really deep shades, like black base basically infused with glitter. In the case of Lunar Nightshade, it is like teal blue glitter, and in the shade of in the case of Bordeaux Bliss, it is black infused with like hot pink and reddish type glitter, which I find very interesting. I really enjoy using these shades as liner moments. I think this is a very interesting blue, this one over here, because it is quite neutral in tone in a way, so it is not a blue eyeshadow that will look scary if you don't really know what to do with blue eyeshadow. I feel like a lot of people are scared to wear greens and blues because they can be quite intimidating as colors, but when you take something like this, this almost looks like a neutral blue, which is I think one of the biggest reasons people are really attracted to this quint. Personally, I'm also really fond of this shade here, the beautiful taupey pink shade. The only one that I'm unsure of and I haven't really gotten any use out of yet is this purple, so I will withhold judgment on it just yet. And finally, like I said, we have the Bordeaux Bliss quint, which again houses one of those very dark shades. Let me give that a swatch right here for you so that you can see how interesting it is looking with this reddish pinkish glitter in it. Again, you can use this as like a smoky black eye kind of shade. You can put it in your lower lashes, you can use it as a smoking out shade in your outer corners. Whatever you want to do, it will work, because it is actually a very pleasant formula. It has very minimal fallout, which I find very interesting about it. Usually shades like this have a lot of fallout. This one has basically almost no fallout to it, which I really like. I find this quint to be a little bit less unique though when it comes to the eyeshadows. I don't really like these types of like matte eyeshadows with glitter in them. This is too similar to Eleganza, so really the only thing that I truly think is unique and I enjoy about this quint is this black with the hot pink sparkle to it. But again, I haven't really used these eyeshadows enough to have an absolutely fully formed opinion on them, so I will say that for now I really enjoy everything that I bought. I don't regret anything that I bought, but I certainly have my favorites and my lesser favorites. Alright, so we're almost there. This was the roundup portion of the video, and now I'm quickly going to tackle my empties. And I'm first going to start with skincare, where I have two empties, two of my staple products. Really, I've talked about this so much. First, we have the Essential Glow Moisturizer, Broad Spectrum SPF 30, and the C25 Vitamin C Booster, both from Paula's Choice. As you can see, I have butchered both of these so that I can scrape whatever is left on the inside of the package of the tube, because squeezy tubes unfortunately always mean there's going to be so much product that's left behind, and no vitamin C will ever be wasted in my house. So I scraped whatever I could out of here, and I just scraped whatever I could out of this moisturizer. This is my favorite daily moisturizer because it is very hydrating. It sort of like provides such a smooth base for my foundation later. And the vitamin C booster is just a very effective vitamin C product. I really enjoy this. I have repurchased these countless times and I already have new packages in my backups, so I'm going to dig into those ASAP. Okay, let's say that this is like skincare adjacent, even though it is not really related to skincare, and it is also an empty that I've had for at least a couple of months and I don't know what happened to it. I think it just like rolled underneath other things and I totally forgot about it. But this is the first tube that I finished from the Glow For It Lash Serum. And I've been getting like comments from people in the last couple of months like, oh my gosh, what mascara are you using? And I keep telling everyone, it is not the mascara, you guys. It is the lash serum that's really doing something. So I started using this in the beginning of the year, again, per recommendation of Charlotte Holdcroft. So this is a lash growth serum that is not based on prostaglandins. So this just has a number of like goodies for your lashes, and the question was, is it going to do something for me, yes or no? And after consistent use for the past, what is it now, 10 months, I can reassure you, and you have seen it on camera, this does something for my lashes. It is amazing. I love the effect that it has had on my lashes. It has definitely made them grow thicker and longer, and there are more of them. And honestly, when you get your lashes to be at that stage, pretty much any mascara, unless it's like a really shitty mascara, is going to work for you. So I highly recommend this lash serum. On the topic of lashes, I finally finished the MAC Stack Mascara, which I'm not really even sure that I've ever shown on my channel because I don't really do my lashes on camera. But I purchased this again, I think off of recommendation of Charlotte Holdcroft quite a few months ago. I think the packaging of this mascara is like really cool. It is a very expensive mascara. MAC charges 34 euros for this. I purchased it with a little bit of discount, but it was still so much more expensive than the mascara that I usually use, which is the Kiko Extra Sculpt. Now, this was a fine mascara. I don't really know what to tell you. It was a good mascara. It lengthens, it thickens, although I have to apply a few more layers of this to get them to be thicker where compared to the Kiko Extra Sculpt. Once the Kiko Extra Sculpt gets to that sweet spot where it's not too liquid anymore and it is a little bit drier, at least in my opinion, you have to wait a couple of weeks to really tell how mascara performs, including this one. But once the Kiko Extra Sculpt gets to that sweet spot, essentially in like two gentle touches of my lashes, they're already looking amazing. Whereas with this one, I had the feeling that I had to wait almost until it was like finished and really like dried out. And I've just come to realize I like drier type mascaras because they just seem to work a little bit better in providing that instant volume that I want for my lashes. Because what I want is instant volume and a little bit of lengthening. And this required a bit more layering in order to get to that point. And in addition to that, it smudges. Now that my lashes are so long, I have like the top lashes here, which frequently will touch my lid area, and also on my lower lashes. I have relatively long lower lashes, so there's always touching of mascara with my skin. And yeah, you can see already, for example, today that I have a little bit of smudging here with the other mascara that I'm trying to finish. And for reference, I never have smudging with my Kiko Extra Sculpt. So this was fine, but it once again served to convince me that I should just stick to my Kiko Extra Sculpt. Like, I always know that my Kiko Extra Sculpt is unbeatable for the price and the quality that you're getting. I would not repurchase this 100%, and I usually just stick to my Kiko mascara, but every now and then I am infected by curiosity to just, you know, venture out and try something different. And every time I've ventured out and tried something different in terms of a more expensive mascara, I've always been disappointed. And this was no exception. Final makeup empties, one that I've been working on for a really long time. This is one of my favorite foundations in my collection. This is the Dior Backstage foundation. I do want to say that they've changed the formula of this, so I don't really know how the new formula performs, but the older formula was this beautiful lightweight, non-drying, but also not too dewy finish on the skin. I really enjoyed this foundation. There's probably a few more drops to be gotten out of there if I like put it the other way and I squeeze it out, but nobody got time for that. I finally finished it, it's out of my collection and I'm really happy. It's a really beautiful foundation, and if at some point I feel the need for having this formula back in my collection, I would definitely consider repurchasing and trying the new version of this foundation. It is a really, really good foundation. This was, by the way, in the shade 2N. And the two final empties that I'm going to talk about are two of the perfume samples that I picked up from Maison Francis Kurkdjian in the spring months. So I mentioned in the spring that I had purchased two exploratory sample sets, each containing 4 little samples of his perfumes, and I talked about my 4 favorites, and then I mentioned I'm going to talk about the other 4 in the upcoming month, and I never ended up doing that for a reason. So the two empties that I have here are Aqua Universalis and Aqua Celestia Forte. So these two and the other two that I never mentioned are all in the more like floral range of perfumes, and I swear to you, I wear them and every time I'm like, okay, now I'm going to remember how this specific one smells, and I can never tell them apart. I cannot for the life of me tell them apart, and that is the reason I never talked about them. They, first of all, I've discovered that I'm really over floral perfume, so neither of these is something I would consider purchasing a bigger size of, or that I would particularly miss in my collection. They were fine floral scents, and maybe there was one which was a little bit more memorable. It was neither of these two, and I just, yeah, I can't tell them apart. So that is the reason I never really bothered talking about it in my favorites, because I was like, how am I going to mention that I like these or what I think about them when I can literally not tell them apart? I'm sure that if I were to make the effort, I would probably be like, okay, this one smells a bit more like this and this one smells a bit more like this, and you know, I would know a bit more details about them. But when I spray them on, and I've tried that, I spray one on one day and then the other day I try another one and another one and another one, and by day 4 I'm like, nope, they smell the same to me. So I used them up, I'm not going to miss them, they're out. I'm really happy that I was able to try them as little samples, but there is no, you know, deep long-lasting connection being established here. So this concludes this extremely long roundup and empties video for the month of October. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I would love to know your thoughts on all the new things that you have picked up or older things that you have fallen in love with. If you have any thoughts, feelings about any of the products that I talked about, please feel free to share them with me in the comment section below, also with the rest of us, of course. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!